This is the court speaking. First sentence, first 7 words. Due to inaccurate statements by the governor, Ramsey County District Court judge has issued and authorized this following news release. That's pretty straightforward. So the court's lying?
I can't tell you, Congressman, but the interpretation
somebody's lying. Somebody's lying, because you can't say the court ordered you to restart the payments, and then the court says we didn't order you to restart the payments. So either you're lying or the court's lying. And I'm just asking you, which one is it?
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Freedom Forge, the place where we break through the talking points, hold the powerful accountable, and bring you the truth the mainstream refuses to show. If you believe in open government, the rule of law, and you're tired of politicians passing the buck when they get caught red-handed, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because you will not want to miss what we have today. Today's story is about transparency, integrity, and, frankly, the lack of both in our government. We're covering the explosive hearing where Congressman Jim Jordan grilled Minnesota Governor Tim Walz about one of the biggest government fraud cases we've ever seen. The infamous Feeding Our Future scandal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor, why didn't you tell the truth? Why didn't you just tell the truth about the Feeding Our Future program? This program, my understanding, received $3 million the first year. Within a couple years was getting $200 million of taxpayer money. Whistleblowers raised concerns. As the chairman said, auditors raised concerns. Everybody raised concerns. March 30th, 2021, the payments are stopped. And a little over a month later, the payments are restarted. Why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments?
Well, Chairman, we did tell you. And Feeding Our Future grew because of the pandemic. And
I didn't ask that question. I said, why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments? The payments stopped because there were concerns, obviously. It wouldn't stop the payments. Then they're restarted a month later. What was the reason for restarting the payments?
My understanding was the agency believed that the court had required them to make those payments.
And that was false, wasn't it? You repeated that. You said that, didn't you? You said that's why the reason. You said the reason you restarted is because the court ordered you to do so. Is that right?
I don't believe that is settled yet, to the best of my knowledge.
Well, I think it is, because the court did something that I don't know if I've ever seen it. They issued a statement saying you were wrong in what you were saying. This is from the court. It says, Feeding Our Future versus Minnesota Department of Education, correcting reports and statements by Governor Tim Walz concerning orders issued by the court. Here's what the judge says. Governor Tim Walz told the media that the Minnesota Department of Education attempted in payments to FOF because of possible fraud, but that Judge Guthman ordered payments to continue in April 2021. Next sentence. That is false. So you said something that wasn't true. He further states this, Judge Guthman, the court says this, Judge Guthman never ordered the Department of Education to resume payments to Feeding Our Future in April 2021 or at any other time. So I want to know, why didn't you tell the truth?
Congressman, the attorneys at the Department of Education interpreted that differently. Both of those judges are no longer on the bench, and I think that interpretation.
The very first sentence. The first 7 words. This is not some unnamed source talking to the New York Times. This is not some anonymous source talking to whatever your Minnesota Star Tribune or whatever your paper is. This is the court speaking. First sentence, first 7 words. Due to inaccurate statements by the governor, Ramsey County District Court judge has issued and authorized this following news release. That's pretty straightforward. So the court's lying?
I can't tell you, Congressman, but the interpretation
somebody's lying. Somebody's lying, because you can't say the court ordered you to restart the payments, and then the court says we didn't order you to restart the payments. So either you're lying or the court's lying. And I'm just asking you, which one is it?
I just simply know what the attorneys at the agency believed, that it was a misinterpretation. And I would note that those payments.
Could it be you were trying to hide behind the court, Governor? Could that maybe be the reason why you issued the statements you did and why the court had to do something you never see done before? They issue a press statement saying you're wrong. The governor is wrong. His statement is, their words, not mine, false. Could that be the reason?
That was not the interpretation of the attorneys. And you know, court work, you can appeal those, Congressman, as you well know. I'm sure
Is it all about politics, Governor?
No, it's about taking care of our people, which Minnesota does better than anyone else.
$3 million. The behavioral intervention program went from $3 million to $400 million in 5 years. The housing stabilization went from $2.6 million to $104 million. The integrated community supports went from $4.6 million to $170 million in 3 years. And this is unbelievable what's happening, and you're trying to hide behind some pretend court order, some court order that didn't exist. Governor, who's Casey Magan?
I don't know who Casey Magan is.
Well, I'll tell you. Mr. Magan is a Somali American and a fraud investigator in the guy beside you's office, in the Attorney General's office. And here's what he said. There was a perception that forcefully tackling this issue might cause political backlash among the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc. Did that have anything to do with this whole fraud scheme that went on in your state, Governor?
It did not, Congressman.
It did not. So you're saying Mr. Casey Magan is lying too?
I'm not.
You're the only one telling the truth in the whole state. Mr. Magan, who's a fraud investigator at the Attorney General's office, says it's politics. The court said
I couldn't speak for Mr. Magan. You asked me a question.
I know.
And I said no when you asked me the question.
I'm saying Casey Magan said just the opposite.
I don't know.
So the court's wrong and Casey Magan's wrong. You're the only guy right. How many people have been indicted in your state right now? Do you know, Governor?
I don't have those numbers with me.
You don't? 98 people have been indicted. You happen to know how many are Somali American?
I don't. We don't investigate or prosecute people based on ethnicity, religion.
Neither do I. We shouldn't do that. But Mr. Magan is a Somali American who just said that the court, one of the concerns was this is a core voting bloc. And I just want to know if you know how many of the 98 people who have been indicted in your state are Somali.
I don't. Their ethnicity is not my concern.
85% of the people indicted were Somali American, key voting bloc. And I think that's what drove this whole thing. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
For those who haven't followed the case, Feeding Our Future started out as a small program supposedly dedicated to providing meals for kids in need. In its first year, it got about $3 million. Within just a couple of years, that number exploded to $200 million. You heard that right, from $3 million to $200 million practically overnight. That kind of growth didn't just raise eyebrows. Whistleblowers were sounding the alarm, auditors were waving red flags, and everyone with a brain could see something wasn't adding up here. Payments to the program finally stopped in March 2021. Why? Because even state officials acknowledged there were serious concerns about fraud. But then, here's the kicker. Just a little over a month later, those payments started right back up. Instead of cleaning house, the spigot of taxpayer cash got turned on again as if nothing happened. Why get back to business as usual? That's the question Jim Jordan hammered Governor Walz on. Jordan pressed him not just about what happened, but about why he couldn't just tell the truth to the people of Minnesota and to taxpayers all over this country. Walz and his administration claimed they restarted the payments because a judge ordered them to do so. That's what Walz said. But it turns out that's not what actually happened. Let's get this clear. The court itself went out of its way, and this almost never happens, to issue a public statement correcting the record. The statement couldn't be clearer. The court says, Governor Tim Walz told the media that the Minnesota Department of Education attempted in payments to FOF because of possible fraud, but that Judge Guthman ordered payments to continue in April 2021. That is false. The court never ordered any payments to continue. No court order. No legal requirement. It was Walz's call, plain and simple. Now, when you get called out by a court in such a public way, you'd think you'd admit what happened. But not Governor Walz. Instead, he passes the blame to the attorneys in the Department of Education, claims there was some misinterpretation. He even points out that the judges aren't on the bench anymore, as if that changes the facts or makes their statement less true. Folks, ask yourself, if you or I made a mistake like that at our job, we'd have to answer for it. Why do politicians think they're above the same standard? Let's be blunt. Someone is lying. Either Governor Walz lied when he claimed a court ordered him to restart those payments, or the court is lying when it says, in black and white, that never happened. Now, who do you believe? The judge who went to the extraordinary length of issuing a press statement, or a politician whose program is at the center of a $200 million fraud scandal? I know which side I'm on, but it doesn't stop there. Congressman Jordan brings up something even more troubling, the racial and political dynamics at play. He reads a statement from Casey Mag, a fraud investigator in the state's own Attorney General's office. Mag says there was a perception that tackling the feeding our future fraud aggressively could anger the Somali community, a core voting bloc in Minnesota politics. It's laid out right there. The suggestion that officials pulled their punches because they were afraid of losing votes. Walz, of course, denies it had anything to do with his decisions. But can you blame people for not taking his word for it at this point? Let me be clear. Nobody is saying that any one group is inherently responsible for fraud. But the facts are these: 98 people indicted, 85% of them Somali American, according to Jordan. That is a staggering number. If you care about rooting out corruption, it shouldn't matter who is committing the fraud. The law is supposed to be blind. But when political leaders put their own interests or worries about their voting base above enforcing the law, everyone loses. Taxpayers lose. Honest members of the Somali community lose. The reputation of Minnesota and government aid programs everywhere lose. There's a tragic pattern here. Massive government spending, minimal oversight, red flags ignored, whistleblowers brushed aside, and the people who are supposed to be in charge pointing fingers and dodging responsibility. Instead of transparency, we get stonewalling. Instead of accountability, we get excuses and finger-pointing. What happened in Minnesota is a warning sign for the rest of the country. There's a reason big government is always ripe for fraud. When politicians control who gets the money and who gets investigated, you'd better believe politics comes into play. That's why we need strong checks and balances, real transparency, and real consequences for mismanagement, no matter who is in the governor's mansion or which political party is in charge. And as for Governor Walz, he had the chance to come clean. He could have admitted the mistake, accepted responsibility, and taken real steps to get to the bottom of what happened. Instead, he blamed his lawyers, he hedged his answers, and worst of all, he doubled down on a claim the court openly called false. This is what's wrong with politics today. Too many leaders refuse to level with the people. They think they can spin their way out of anything, as long as their supporters keep looking the other way. But here at Freedom Forge, we will keep pressing for truth, shining a light on corruption, and holding everyone accountable, no matter who they are. If you want real accountability, if you want to know what's really happening behind closed doors, if you want more Americans to stand up for truth and transparency, then make sure you subscribe to this channel. Share this video with your friends. Let them see for themselves how government excuses get exposed when you dig just a little deeper. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Walz was hiding behind a fake court order to protect his political allies? Do you think politicians should be held to the same standard as the rest of us? We want to hear your take. Thanks for watching Freedom Forge. Stay vigilant, stay free, and never stop asking the tough questions. We'll see you next time.